in order to understand what we call the changing landscape, let's look at what is Bordeaux today. We have about 120, now 110,000 hectares of surface area for vine, accounting for about 1.5% of the world vineyard. I think when we look at this percentage, you think it's small, but I think in terms of for a region just like Bordeaux, it is quite sizable. No? And that translates into about 5 million hectoliters of quality wine. And sometimes people say, what is 5 million hectoliters? 1 hectoliter is 100 liters. So 5 million will be 500 million liters, and that would give you about 660 million bottles of wine coming from Bordeaux. And Bordeaux, if you look at the AOP, which is basically what I said just now, the appellation wine, account really, I think, the top region, there's the top regions of AOP producer in France. Okay, so it gives you some, I would say, idea of the size, and certainly when compared to Beaujolais, 7 times the size, and so on and so forth. You can look at it. And that production, all in all, we have 65 different appellations coming from Bordeaux. Okay, 65 appellations. I think about 10 years ago, we are talking about 57 appellations. So things have changed. When I went, my idea was still 60 appellations, and now come back is 65 appellations. So many, you can see the percentage wine, the generic Bordeaux still occupy almost half of the production. Now, what are these appellations when we look at it? So it's important for us also to understand this concept of appellations in Bordeaux. 65, and a lot of people start counting the names there and say that if we don't get 65 names there, how come we have 65 appellations? So where are the others that is not dug then? So appellation is not just about just a name. You have the same name, for example, but if you have a different color of wine, it's considered a different appellation. So they don't state on the bottle, say, oh, this is, I would say, Bordeaux Blanc appellation. We will just give you Bordeaux, appellation Bordeaux Contrôlé, and that's it. And you look at the color, one bottle is red, one bottle is white. That accounts for 2 appellations. One bottle is rosé, is a 3rd appellation. Okay, so that's how we count the appellations. Very important. So all in all, we have 65 appellations coming from Bordeaux. And later on, towards the end, I would also want to share with you a little bit of how to appreciate what we call this hierarchy of appellation in Bordeaux. So when you recommend to your clients to buy wines, at least you know how to convince him to pay a bit more for something better. So it's a matter of getting them to convince themselves that it's the right buy. So Bordeaux today, you can see that it is run on a very much like a Guanxi system. So we talk about the Chinese is very strong in having this relationship, this Guanxi, things like that. In Bordeaux, French are like Chinese, so relationship is very, very important. Today, if you don't have the right connection, don't dream of getting directly a bottle of wine from the chateau. They won't sell it to you. They sell it through what they call the negotiation system. Okay, and the negotiation system, probably you know how it started was because holding wine is very expensive, and the negotiation served a bit like a bankers to them. So they buy forward, they keep the stock, they hold the stock, they bear the cost. So the chateaus are very happy to let them have the wine and they deal with the sales. And a lot of these chateaus before was actually owned by what we call the aristocracy, the royalty and things like that. So they also do not want to be seen directly dealing with the people in selling wine. So they have a banker there as an interface for them, and they happily still stay in their own chateaus without having to deal with the people. Okay, so that's how the negotiation system started in Bordeaux, and they become something very established. And if you look at that, 70% of Bordeaux wine is really undertaken by these wine merchants. So if you happily bring back some directly, wines directly from Bordeaux without going through any negotiation, you are touching on the rest of the 30%. Okay? So let's give you some figures. I'm not going to go through that on how the merchant system works in Bordeaux. Now come to